Hello all and welcome to my channel. I hope you consider subscribing or at least staying for the whole episode. Your watching and engaging goes a long way here. My name is Ashley Robin and I'm just a weirdo on the internet who likes to uncover true crime cases from years past and say the names of the victims out loud once more to keep their stories and memories alive. There's something about the dark side of the human experience that's always been intriguing to me. If you're a morbidly curious black sheep like me, we'll get along just fine. Today, we are going to do kind of a two-parter. On one hand, we have a police officer getting gunned down in the line of duty. On the other, we have a mentally underdeveloped young man getting wrongfully executed 70 years ago today. This is True Crime Time Hop, Episode 15. Warning, the following content may be disturbing to some audiences. If you could be triggered by talk of violence, murder, and failures of the justice system, please see your way out and prioritize your mental health. Viewer discretion is advised. Derek William Bentley was a British man born on the 30th of June, 1933. He entered the Norbury Manor Secondary Modern School after failing his 11+ examination in 1944. For those who don't know, the 11+ examination is a standardized test administered to some students in England and Northern Ireland in their last year of primary school in order to determine academic-based placement into their secondary or grammar school. Right before he was set to be finished with secondary education, in March of 1958, he and another boy were arrested for theft. As punishment, he was sentenced to 3 years in Kingswood Approved School near Bristol. It was there that he met and befriended Christopher Craig. Derek had serious mental hurdles to overcome. His parents reported that in his childhood he accidentally broke his nose and as a result he had 3 seizure fits. They were also bombed out 3 times during World War II. In one of those bombings, his house actually collapsed around him. Physically, he was uninjured by this, but of course he was psychologically traumatized, and it was later determined that he also had epilepsy. Bentley was sent to Kingswood Training School in Bristol on October 27, 1948. There, they evaluated his mental function and found that at that time, when he was 15.5 years old, he functioned at the capacity of a 10-year-old. After his arrest in 1952, it was further determined that he had a full-scale IQ of only 77. He was found to be quite illiterate and could not read or write his full alphabet. He was released from Kingswood School on July 28th of 1950, but he was to remain under their care for 4 more years. He spent the rest of 1950 as a recluse. In March of 1951, he was hired at a furniture removal company. There, he worked for a year until he hurt his back, and they had to leave him go, I guess. On the night of November 2nd, 1952, Bentley and Christopher Craig, who was just 16 at the time, attempted to rob the warehouse of the Barlow and Parker Confectionery Company. Someone saw them scaling the side of the building and contacted authorities right away. When police arrived, the boys were on the roof. From behind the lift housing, Craig taunted them. Detective Sergeant Frederick Fairfax climbed the drain pipe to the roof and grabbed Bentley. Bentley broke free and the officer turned to Craig. He said, "Give me the gun, lad," when he saw that the boy had a Colt New Service .455 Webley revolver with him. "Let him have it, Chris," Bentley said. With that, Chris shot the officer in the shoulder. He meant, give the officer the gun, but Chris apparently misunderstood. Anyway, after Fairfax was shot, he was able to again catch Bentley. This time, Bentley told him Craig had more weapons and ammo, and he didn't use his weapons, which were just knuckle dusters provided by Craig that he had in his pocket. Police backup soon arrived, and the second officer after Fairfax to make it up to the roof was Constable Sidney Miles. Miles was instantly shot dead right between the eyes by Craig. Craig then emptied the remainder of his clip in the general direction of the police as they cornered him, and he eventually leapt off the roof to fall 30 feet. He landed on the roof of a greenhouse, and his spine was fractured as well as his wrist, but he survived. Both of the young men were charged with murder, but because Craig was only 16 at the time of the crime, he was not at risk of receiving the death penalty, despite the fact that he was the one that fired the fatal shot. Bentley was the one facing execution if convicted, and his best defense was that he was effectively under arrest at the time by Fairfax. Said officer testified in court against Bentley, citing his yelling "let him have it" before Craig fired his gun was intended to encourage the attack. They refused to accept his explanation that he was trying to encourage Craig to give him the gun. Despite many appeals and criticism from the public over his mental health and his lack of actual responsibility in the crime, Derek Bentley was hung on this day, January 28, 1953. Bentley's parents started a campaign to give him a posthumous pardon, and when they passed, his sister carried the torch. In March of 1966, his remains were removed from the cemetery of Wandsworth Prison and reinterred into the family plot. On July 29, 1993, 40 years after his execution, Bentley was granted a royal pardon. However, in English law, this does not do enough to expunge the conviction, so his sister continued to lobby for him. On July 30, 1998, the Court of Appeals finally quashed his murder conviction so that he may now rest in peace. Sadly, his sister did not survive long enough to see him exonerated, as she passed the year before from cancer. May she too rest in peace. So yeah, I feel really bad for this guy. He had like a really crappy life. I mean, he did a lot of stuff wrong too, but he really genuinely seems like he did not know better, and he didn't seem like he had much of a chance to have any better of an outcome because of his circumstances, and that is just a damn shame. So yeah, it really makes me wonder how much his childhood trauma played a role in his mental underdevelopment, because I do really feel like trauma has a lot to do with people, how they develop, obviously, but also like their cognitive functioning, especially if you're being exposed to the trauma at an early age. Like, he lived through literally being bombed. So I don't know, I feel bad for the guy, and I really feel like mental health should be talked about at any opportunity. So like, when I see stuff like this in cases, I gotta point it out, because trauma changes people and it affects them so much. It makes me wonder how much of his juvenile delinquency was attributed to his parents' lack of engagement in his life. It really seems like from a young age, they were not paying attention, obviously, or he wouldn't have had this accident where he broke his nose. I mean, I understand accidents happen, but then as he was getting older, he's just getting shipped off to different boys' schools, and I'm pretty sure all of the schools that he was at after his primary were ones that he lived at. So I don't know. What are your thoughts? I guess this is me being a noob here with this yet, but I do remember seeing somewhere while I was reading about this that there was some kind of law put into practice shortly after this because of how much unease this set forth in people. And the law was basically protecting those who are mentally incapacitated from being executed. So the noob part is, I don't remember what the name of the law is or the year or anything. I should have included it in my notes, but I was kind of just doing this in between playing with my kids and doing housework and everything else today, so I'm just glad I'm posting it on time. That being said, if I am to post this on time, I have 20 minutes to take it from recording to being completely finished with editing. So wish me luck on that, and I'm going to stop yammering my face off. Leave some comments below and let me know what you think about the psychology stuff I was talking about. I really do want to start a dialogue in the comments. I know I have some cool people subbing to me, but I don't know if you're actually watching, and it would be really easy for me to know if you were here on this video if I saw your thumbs up. So please, give me that thing, and otherwise, have a great rest of your night.